Hello students, I am Dr. Garima Srivastava from Lal Bahadur Shastri College, Lucknow. I am going to take up the topic interview skills, the second part of the interview skills. In the last part we have studied what was interview, what are the different types of interview that an interviewer can face, can put up interview in front of the interviewee, and the different skills that are required by the interviewee for the purpose of giving the interview. Now, for that purpose, the second part contains how you are going to prepare for a job interview. Now, of course, putting up your skills, applying your different skills, whatever we have studied, like you can say non-verbal skills, verbal skills, different listening skills, then educational background, empathy, all these things are important as an skill for an interviewer to appear for an interviewee to appear for the interview. Now, for the preparation of a job, some different aspects are also regarded. Now, for the preparation of the job, we will see the different points that are important for an interviewee to start and to brush up for. The very first point, research the company or the organization. Now, what an organization is? An organization or a company is a place or premise where the vacancy is being created. Now, this vacancy, this vacancy is being published in either a newspaper or an internet. Now, you as an applicant or an interviewee, you come across this particular vacancy. Now, you want to apply for this vacancy and you fill up the application form that is being put up by the organization. Now, why do you fill this particular form for a particular organization? Because you consider that organization as a worth for you to join that organization. Now, for this purpose only we research the company. Now, suppose there is a good vacancy in a particular organization, say Indian Oil organization. Now, over here if I go for an interview in Indian Oil for a particular kind of vacancy, I need to research that organization before joining, before giving this interview. Why? Because in the questions and different questions that are being put up by the interviewer, different questions may be regarding different aspects of the organization, such as you can be asked vision of the organization, you can be asked mission of the organization, different milestones the organization has taken up for in the past. Now, these particular aspects, if you do such kind of homework before giving the interview, before going for the job vacancy, over there these questions are going to help you in a form that it will give you a brief outlay of that particular organization. What are the different objectives of such organization? So, these objectives can match your own objectives, or you can give your answers accordingly, wherein the individual interviewee can integrate his own objectives with the objectives of the organization, which is very well expected by the interviewer. Now, researching the organization will give you a wider view of what a company is looking for and how well you might fit in the organization. That means, you are going to integrate your own objectives with the objectives of the organization. Now, second comes the review of the job description. Now, job description is a particular aspect, is a very a specific aspect, or is a very descriptive term wherein we describe a particular job. Now, when we describe a job, it means it is what are its components? Its components in terms of responsibilities and duties of that particular job. Now, when you are aware of the responsibilities and duties of a particular job you are going to apply for, you will be well prepared, you will be presenting your such skills which match the responsibilities and duties of such kind of job. So, when you prepare for an interview, your first step is to be very carefully read and reread the job posting or the job description. This will help you to develop a clearer idea of how you are going to present your skills or implement your skills or attributes to the company's job. Then comes brush up your basics. Now, brush up your basics means before appearing for an interview, it is important that you prepare for certain kind of questions which are often put up by the interviewer, as well as you need to prepare excellent subject knowledge of your own. That means, whatever background, whatever subject background you are, you have to prepare all those subjective knowledge also. Now, when you prepare yourself with your subjective knowledge, your knowledge sets, your skill sets, you become more and more confident, because you have already done a revision, you have already brushed up your skills before appearing for the interview. Now, if you do not do so, it may make you somewhat lesser confident, because you may or may not remember different aspects of whatever things you have studied in your, say, suppose graduation or in your post graduation, in your specialization areas. So, for appearing for a particular job interview, it is important that according to the job description, you need to brush up your skills, you need to present your knowledge in such a way that the person on the other side of the table, that is the interviewer, he thinks you to be fit for that particular job vacancy. Now, along with the impressive personality, you also need to get the excellent job knowledge or excellent subject knowledge. Most interviewees find that practicing the interview in advance with a family member, with a friend or colleague eases possible nerves during the actual interview. Now, for this purpose, you can take help of reflecting, which we have studied in business communication. Now, reflecting means you are trying to present your ideas, you are trying to present your skills, different verbal and non-verbal skills in front of a camera, or you are trying to present it in front of a mirror, where you are continuously practicing the different questions that are being asked by the interviewer. Now, come prepared. Now, of course, when you reach the venue, when you go for the interview, you have to be prepared in all sense. That means you need to get that subject knowledge, you have to be well presentative, your personality should depict that you are very confident for that particular kind of job. With all these, along with all these, you also need to be prepared when it comes to different testimonials, it comes to different papers of yours. That means always prepare a file with you when you go for an interview. Now, what does this file will contain? This file will contain a covering letter, which will give in 2-3 lines or 4 lines about yourself. It will give an introduction of the applicant, and it will also give certain information which will be directly related to job in 2-3 lines, and this covering letter will be giving the other information, such as in subject line you have to give what kind of job you have to apply. Now, this covering letter, along with this, you need to place a resume or a curriculum vitae. Then again, at the end, you need to attach different testimonials of yours or photocopy of your own testimonials, wherein you need to self-attest those testimonials before giving it to the employer. Now, always carry certain number of say 2 or 3 passport size photographs, because they may be asked from you to be submitted in the organization. So, plan to bring your resume, a covering letter, a list of preferences to the interview. You may also be asked to bring a portfolio of representative work, leave behind coffee, chewing gum and other different items which cause distractions. That means do not chew anything in your mouth whenever you are going for that particular interview. Always and again also carry a pen with you when you are going for the interview. Now, all these things will make you prepared for appearing for that particular interview, and it will also make you confident as an applicant to appear for the interview. Then prepare for potential interview questions. Now, when you go for an interview, when you go prepared for an interview, you have prepared yourself, you have dressed up in a formal manner, you have brushed up your skills. That means you have seen all the aspects of your specialization, you have seen aspects of your educational background. Now, you have also prepared your file which will represent your different testimonials, different aspects of your educational and experience background. Now, the very next thing is that you need to be prepared for certain questions, certain important questions that are often placed before the interviewee. Now, these common questions, the very common question can be, tell me about yourself, describe who you are, or why should I hire you. These are the 3 very basic questions which are asked by the interviewer. Now, you need to prepare these questions beforehand and need to practice these questions beforehand. That means, whenever such kind kind of questions are put up. You need to show your confidence that who you are, what kind of personality you are, what are the different courses you have pursued, and how these courses or how these educational background has helped you to reach to such level, and how far these particular educational background of the interviewee will help the interviewer to grab this particular position in the organization. Make a list of such potential questions in relation to the job background or the profile that the company is seeking for. Now comes the next point, that is be punctual and confident. Now when we talk about punctual, it means discipline in life. So of course, whenever you asked to come at least you are asked to come, say suppose at 10 AM in the morning for the interview. Now it is the responsibility of the interviewee that he reaches at least 15 minutes before the time that has been allotted for the interview. Why this helps in our life? Because this extra 15 minutes will give extra confidence to the interviewee, and when he reaches beforehand, he becomes more calm, he can remain calm, as in a haphazard manner his question answering session may go wrong. So for that purpose, to be calm, you need to reach the venue before time. So in this particular extra 15 minutes, what will you do? You can prepare, you can relook into your files, you can relook into your papers, you can again see into your background, education background, you can check different terms, terminologies, definitions if you want to check. So this will again give you a last minute confidence when you are going to appear for the interview. So always respect time and reach the venue at least 15 minutes before the scheduled interview. Then interviewees should be confident and courageous. By doing so, you may make a strong first impression. That means when we talk about interviews, the saying always go that first impression is always the last impression. So you need to check that what would be your first impression. So to make this particular first impression, the long lasting impression in front of the interviewer, you need to be courageous, you need to be confident, and you need to understand what are the basic requirements of these particular job. As the saying goes, there is no second chance to make the first impression. So you would not get this beautiful chance, this impressive first chance the second time in your life. So make proper utilization of this first chance of first impression in front of the interviewer. Then plan to dress appropriately. Now that this is a very important aspect when we are going to appear for the interview in a physical manner. Now when we talk about different dresses, different attires that we wear to the interview, it is very important to understand that not all kinds of attire, whether female attire or male attire, are acceptable when we appear for the interview. So for females, it is very important to understand that you need to go in a formal attire, and plus different other aspects of the dressing is important when you appear for the interview. Similar is the case with the male people. The male attires are also specific, and with that particular attire, what are other things that you need to keep in mind. Now when we see about dressing properly, interviewees are generally most properly dressed for an interview in business attire with the goal of looking highly professional and eyes of the interviewer. Then comes the be attentive and speak clearly. Now this is very important. Now all the aspects with all the other aspects and additive aspect is you have to be attentive. That means you have to be very good listener. Your listening skills should be very good, so that you listen to the question in the first go, you analyze that question, and then be calm for 2-3 seconds and then start giving your answer. Also when you start giving your answer, make a proper structure of your answer and then start giving your answer. Listen carefully to everything in the what the interviewer is saying. When communicating, speak in calm and clear manner. That means whenever you will structure your question, you will structure your answer. That means you take those 2-3 seconds between the question and answering session. That means you are preparing yourself to give a calm and clear answer to the interviewer. Maintain good body language. Now while giving the interview, while entering into the room, while sitting in front of the interviewer, everywhere your non-verbal communication, that means your body language should be very appropriate, it should be very acceptable in terms of professional organization. Now, when we talk about acceptable body language, it means you have to sit upright and you have to keep a smile on your face rather than slouching in your seat and sitting in a laid back manner. That means your erect position, your handshakes, your eye contact, your moving of limbs and hands, your putting your hands in your pockets, all these will depict different aspects of the interviewee. Now, here the interviewee should understand the different aspects and what are the acceptable standards in the organization, all these needs to be understood. Now comes the make an eye contact. Now, this is an important aspect of non-verbal communication where interviewee has to make an eye to eye contact with the interviewer, and making this eye to eye contact with the interviewer, it will make sure that you are confident and you are well aware of different educational aspect of your background. Know what and when to speak. Always remember that you are in a formal setting, do not be casual, do not use different slangs or jargons, always frame your sentence in a simple and easy manner, do not use very difficult words so as to show that you are very sophisticated. Always prepare your answer, frame your answer, structure your answer, take 2-3 seconds between the question and answering session and then give your answer. Then comes the mention your strengths. Always try to mention your strengths rather than mentioning your weaknesses. Now, this will make you more informative and confident. Why? Because once you present your weaknesses in front of the interviewer, now it will again pose up different other questions related to the job, which may again be against your answering. Now, be informative and confident when talking about the strengths, and do not be arrogant or boastful. That means you need not to be rude when you are answering the question. You can be humble yet informative and confident in front of the interviewer. Coming down to the next point, that is define your career goals. Now, this is also a very important aspect, very important question that is generally being put up by the interviewer. Along with introduce yourself. If you give the answer of this question, it will be very good. That means whenever you are going to introduce yourself, you can give an answer, give a line about what are your career goals or why do you want to join a particular brand, particular organization in that particular question itself, because this answer will give you a particular positive edge in front of the interviewer, wherein interviewer will be aware of who you are and why do you want to join this particular organization. Your career goals or objectives should be clear in your mind. Frame your answers very clearly and then speak. Ask the right question. Now, of course, at the end an interviewer may ask you that do you have, as an interviewee, some questions, some kind of questions in your mind. So, if the interviewer asks you that whether you have any questions or not, now at this point the interviewee should not hesitate and bring up whatever comes in his mind and ask question about whatever is concerned with the interviewee. Never ask questions which are not concerned with the interview, which are not concerned with the interviewee. That means whatever questions you are going to put up, it should be directly related to the job, it should be directly related to the organization, it should be related to the different aspects of your own self, but it should not go in certain other direction, and these questions should not mismatch with the topic of the interview. Lastly, always show gratitude. Now, positive attitude and a polite behavior can get you a particular good job, and you can go a long way to impressing people if you are gratitude towards them. Now, this is an important aspect, what to wear to a particular interview. We have already discussed in the last points where this aspect is an important aspect, that what should be a particular attire to appear for an interview. Now, when we talk about different attires, when we appear for the interview, or not all attires, not all kinds of dresses are acceptable in an organizational setup, because when we talk about an organizational setup, when we talk about a job interview, it is a formal setup, and certain kind of standards are set for the different dressing sense for different people. Now, when we talk about female candidates, Indian ethnic suits with pants, salwars, dupattas or stoles. Now, this is an acceptable format when we talk about a female attire. Similarly, when we talk about the male attire, formal shirts of appropriate formal colors. Now, of course, when we talk about formal colors, it means the colors like white, black, blue, subtle pink or brown. That means some kind of plain color should be there, printeds are not allowed, with formal pants, trousers or skirts. Then comes the formal dressings with decent cuts and lengths with a blazer or a formal jacket. Now, these are acceptable formats when we talk about different attires to wear for the interview. Now, cotton sarees with boat neck or collared blouses, then neatly tied up hair in a ponytail or braids, or you can leave your well combed hair naturally at the back. Now, of course, when we talk about hair tie-ups for the female candidates, it should not come, it should not be very haphazard, it should be well tied up, it should be neatly tied up, and similarly when we talk about the male candidates, the hair should be well combed, and of course, the hair should be trimmed also. So, wearing a beard to the interview, wearing a moustache to the interview is not a good sign to come up with the for the interviews. Then comes what to avoid for the interview, what to avoid wearing for the interviews. Then leggings, denims, jeans, tights, flared or short skirts, casual pants, t-shirts, designer tops. These are not allowed to be wear, these are not acceptable in an interview setup, and you are not expected to appear for an interview in such kind of attire. It will give a different kind of impression in the mind of the interviewer if you come up with this kind of interview, this kind of attire. Then deep necks, outfits with cold shoulders or off shoulders, sleeveless dresses, suits without dupatta, flared kurtis, all these are not acceptable in an organizational setup. Then heavy saris, lacy glittered and shimmery outfits, then heavy makeup, dark shades, reds and pinks, heavy and funky jewelries, these are also not acceptable to the organizational setup. Be very simple, show that you are a very simple person with a very simple attire and a formal setup, formal attire in a organizational setup. Bright and fluorescent colored nail paints, strong perfumes and high heels are also not acceptable in the organization. Now, when we talk about different, we have already talked about different attires that we need to wear, we need to look into which are acceptable in an organizational setup. Similarly, we have also talked about different attires which we should not be wearing to an interview so as to make a good impression. So, now comes the different things that we say when we talk about the talk in the interview. Now, when we talk in the interview, when we say something, the person at the other end may understand something different. Now, communication means when you say something, the other person on the other side hears in the same intended manner. Now, it will be helpful, it will only be possible if you are aware of different communication skills, if you are aware of different communication language that the person wants to hear. Now, here of course, if you say I am highly motivated, that means the person may understand, may interpret that I have no noteworthy skills. That means you are just trying to say that you are highly motivated, you are not presenting your different skills. So, whenever it is asked that tell your strengths or tell about your skills, do specify different skills you possess. That means some kind of, for example, you can say you are a cooperative person, you are a team building person, you are a dynamic person, you have a positive personality, your attitude is positive. All these will depict different kinds of skills rather than saying that I am highly motivated. When we say I am highly motivated, it is a vague kind of concept. So, of course, when you the sentence is though the sentence is very simple, I am highly motivated, but it will not show different kinds of skills that are required for a particular job. So, my weakness, I am a perfectionist. Now, this cannot be your weakness, and no one can be a perfectionist. When we talk about different human beings, we are prone to different errors. So, I cannot say that I am a perfectionist in front of the interviewer. No, I do not have any questions. Now, this is also a wrong kind of answer that you give. Always we have certain kind of questions in our mind, and we need to put them in front of the interviewer with a very humble voice or very humble note. So, when talked about by your about your last boss, never criticize, never say that he was not good, he was working in a very different kind of manner, he was very boastful, he was very rude. Always give a positive note, because all those negative answers will give an unprofessional look, unprofessional look to your answers. Now, when we talk about different do's and don'ts, that means always carry your resume, dress up very appropriately, offer the firm handshake. If you are going to handshake for a particular interview, give a firm handshake and thank the interviewer for the time that he has given to you. That means at the end of always give a thank to the interviewer. Then of course, while an interview is going on, do not take any kind of calls. Try to put your phone on a silent mode. Do not be fidgety. Emphasize on money. Do not emphasize on the money or the worth you are going to get for that job. Always see the worth of the job according to the rules, according to the responsibilities and duties of that particular job, and focus on the different vision and aspects of the organization. Then of course, if you have taken a cigarette before appearing for an interview, do not smell like you have smoked. That means you need to keep calm and do not smoke before going for an interview. Then of course, one more aspect, virtual or online interview, make sure that you have a stable internet connection. This kind of interviews often go on when online interviews when we make interviews on the internet, and the two people, the interviewer and the interviewee, are sitting far off, or there can be boundaries, there can be many boundaries between these two people. So, such kind of interviews can take place. So, for the success of virtual or online interview, it is important that both the people have a stable internet connection. Speak clearly and politely. Ask for the different questions to be repeated if you do not hear it properly. Now, here you can ask for the repetition of the questions. Why? Because breaking of the network can create cracking in the voices, and you may or may not hear the questions very clearly or appropriately. Then pause after each question, that means always take 2-3 seconds before giving your answers, frame your answer and then give your answers. Do not interrupt, wait for your turn, look into the camera or maintain the eye contact. Now, over here you need to look into the camera continuously to maintain the eye contact with the interviewer. Ask for the next steps in the recruitment process, thank the interviewer for his or her time and wish them well. That means always give a thanks to the interviewer for giving such time for the interview. Now, of course, when we talk about different aspects, be positive. Always be positive, exchange your at the end of the interview, you can always greet the interviewer, you can thank the interviewer. The interview runs longer than 30, if the interview runs longer than 30 minutes, it is a positive signal. That means the person wants to talk to you, the person wants to know more about you, you are going to exchange different contact information. Then you get an invitation for a second interview. You are if you qualify for the second round of interview, you will be getting an invitation for that, and then at the last point, negotiation about the salary comes up. Now, so for that purpose, for a success of interview, you always need to be positive, you always need to be confident, brush up your skills, check your educational background, check different terminologies, check different aspects of your specializations, check your all the file work, your all paperwork before going for the interview, appear for the interview at least 15 minutes before time, reach the venue, then give the interview confidently, and definitely you will grab a good job. Thank you.